Before I speak of this tale, I must warn thee of the tears which hath been writ of. Horrors of the flesh, be it mutation or gore, and soul horror follow, as does the depravity of apathy and the deprivations of the wilds on the human body. Hail and well met to the reader of this tale. This tale is titled, To Behold the Walking Dead, and was transcribed by Venturis League scribe Alexia Mestasos Razmir, she, her, of Dedasa, on the 29th of Titaniari, 5004 AR. To preserve the original transcription of the author's work by Venturis League scribe Rex Alhaz al-Deshach. Any all. To all who read this record, be mindful of the horrors of the flesh in mutagenic, visceral, and soul forms, as well as the depravity of apathy and the deprivations of the wilds upon the human body. Hearken these words and remember them for all those that were, are, and shall be. This transcription comes from a passage of a journal belonging to one Inigi of Terra Costa, pronouns unknown, whose skeleton and personal affects were found strewn about in a jailer cell following the Rainbow Revolution in Vitalia. No dates have been provided for this entry. What follows is written to be the best of the transcriber's ability. To witness a member of the undead is a sight that no mortal should ever have to see, lest they become maddened at the violation of the cycle of life and death. I've only seen the undead once in my life. It was when I traveled in the Cutthroat Woods. I walked through the forest on my way to meet my cousin, Silas Mericus, who had settled down following his mercenary work to clear the Cutthroat Woods of miniature elephantine beasts like us, who despoiled the land and burned down any settlement. I had received word months prior that he is infirmed after an attack, which left part of his body paralyzed and slouching. My cousin was the last vestige of family I knew with military experience, and the fact he was injured demanded that I go to him personally. I wanted to hear his thoughts upon the nature of war before I would join the Second Sons Rays mercenary company. I want to hear his thoughts. For some third of a year, it took me to acquire the necessary social credit and planning to see him. It was now that I could finally look upon his face and see the young man I waved off as he moved to rid a foreign land of its plight. When I drew near to his stead in the Cutthroat Woods, the air had grown still. The stone road's neatly packed cobbles gave way to broken earth and scattered steps. Were I not able to follow the few unshaken stones, I would not have known a path ever existed. The day was heavy and quiet, like the slumber of a burden. I drew my daggers and continued walking with my head and eyes always scanning the area for danger I knew lurked in the shadows. There was something. I knew it in the deepest core of my body. At last I had made my way to the settlement of Siegfried's Spear, named so after a Scandinavish warrior. Siegfried cast their spear and claimed the path for the cleansers. No beast made a sound, not even a small insect. In the streets, no pets or persons walked about, nor had there been any signs of habitation in the streets. I called out for my cousin or anybody. I knew it was foolish to do so, yet there's a fear that crept into my heart, a primal terror that rose in my heart that superseded all experience as I searched for my cousin. In every home I entered, furniture was scattered about and fires had long since died. Food rotted on tables, and everywhere was the flaking brown of crusted blood. Tears welled up in my eyes as I started to begin to reconcile with what had happened. Hundreds of warriors and their loved one were gone. My mind imagined the worst mutants tearing my cousin limb from limb and devouring his flesh, or fornicating about his defiled form, as those grotesque cretins are bound to do. After a moment I noticed there was no other sign of predation. No food had been ransacked, nor any bestial markings made. My father's uncle's town had once been attacked by beasts like us. My father said when they are overtaken by gluttony, the beasts void their bowels as a sign of ownership. I did not see anything. It was as if a person had entered the room, wounded every person, and moved them into some other space. No footprints or blood trails. Nothing. So I continued looking around the buildings. Every building was the same. I saw no signs of looting either. I grabbed hold of the sigils around my neck and began praying for the protection from the gods. The fear subsided when I saw no sign of spiritual power either. With no other explanation, I searched the ground for any person and began running. Blood pumped through each leg until the flow in my veins tightened every muscle within. Nary my feet touched the ground when I saw something ahead of me I did not notice when I walked down the path originally. A collection of erected stones filed smooth in a semicircle of small obelisks. Within that moment, I stopped and fell to my knees. The muscles in my legs contracted as if they were still running. Pain shot up my thighs and struck my heart, making me queasy. Acidic swells came up my throat. I heaved as the force of my vomiting quelled. Something in me had to stop lest I fall down and never stand up again. The stones watched on without a care. They were light gray color, polished totally smooth. Ivy covered them halfway, and at the point where it stopped growing, I saw slash marks in the stones. Single strokes, each hard enough to leave cracks within them. They loomed above me as I prostrated my sickened self before them. Soon again, I began to vomit as chills ran through my body. Within moments, a fever had struck me from the inside of my stomach. All that was before me began blurring. I had felt like I stared for hours upon hours at the scriven texts of trade, manifests, and requests. In my mouth, the dryness began to fester like I had eaten thin wool. Even my tongue and teeth had taken a parch. So it was that I dragged myself through the underbrush and dirt until I had reached a tree and curled up near. Something like an all-over sting suffused every inch within agonizing pain. Quiet whimpers escaped my lips uncontrollably. So dry was I that I had nothing for tears. Only about a fourth of my water sack was left, for I had expected to be there well when I arrived to quench any thirst. The swigs of water I took were horrid in my mouth, acrid like sand, yet it was enough. I stripped myself of all weights and began to shift my body. I've heard other humorous humans say their changes were barely noticeable. When I was young, all the other humorous persons I knew could never explain why I convulsed when I did mine. My mother had said it was because the first time I changed my humors, I was very young and not yet attuned to my body's capabilities. Every organ and nerve inside me spiraled and slithered and jostled about within my flesh. I began sweating heavily as the fever intensified, and my body burned from the inside out as whatever affliction ravaged my flesh fought against my morphing constitution. Every time my organs jostled underneath my skin, it felt like burning wood was raked across my body from within. Were there any beasts that wished to devour me, they would have no trouble doing so. The pendants around my neck were my only source of comfort. My prayers had faltered as I bit my tongue hard during one moment of intense spasming. The blood entering my mouth was the only thing I had to consistently drink. At the end of the fever, pain and chills had broken me. Like I had done many times before, I meekly gathered myself and got ready to go as if nothing had ever pained me. Something stopped me from getting up in that moment. In the instant I readied myself to stand, instinct took over as my eyes saw something my mind did not. I froze against the tree's base to hone in my vision, and there I saw it. Standing before me some 200 or so feet in the woods, just yonder my own trail, was a sallow, wiggling person. The dark brown skin was ashy and gray, not ashy as the North Polyglossians get. More, dare I say, glazed with gray. I had not been spotted, nor did I wish to. Something was wrong about this person that I could not identify, but felt deep within my core. They turned around in lockstep formation like the soldiers of the Great Dominion. Once so their back was towards me. Another shift so I saw their left side. Another step so I saw their front. The deepest pit of my stomach churned. The person was bloating in various spots, and an ochre-green color leaked from their orifices. A sullen and frozen expression plastered itself on their bulging face. Were I to see this person when not afflicted, I may have seen them as human. Yet, once more, something in me told me not. Something told me to be still, for there was an air of the grave. Rising from the underbrush with a crash of litter was another person, the same condition, a stunted human. Then another, and another person, until, in all, I saw maybe 20 or 30 people standing there, all moving the same lockstep formation to look in my direction. I reached for my daggers, only to find they were not there, nor were they in my grip. I must have dropped them somewhere in my course. Gifts, notes, spices, utensils, bowls, clothes, and other pleasantries or necessities lay in the satchel next to me. My eyes did not leave the ensemble of bloated things oozing an odd amber-like substance now from their eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and in the case of one bare-chested individual, a series of puncture marks on their abdomen. I only needed the knife from my bag and the map of the region. Those two I had clutched tightly in my hands. My eyes glanced around for a clear pathway that I may take and cover and escape, more importantly. Much to my relief, I found an old game trail that had begun to be overgrown since the construction of the road. It is common knowledge that many game trails were frequented not only by flesh-eating beasts, but also by beasts like us. None were left in the woods, though. My cousin in the armies made sure of that. And if they didn't, then surely I may be able to outrun them or fight with honor before being torn apart. If there were no beasts like us, then predators may stalk and tackle me, seeing as how I was alone, and the scent of fear swathed me like a perfume. The road would be straight to another settlement or town, but without ample warning, that is, if I got there, many would be killed by these things. I smacked my lips to relieve them of the irritation of thirst. It was in that moment of stillness, as the weight of every possibility bore on me, that the clap of my chapped lips echoed. I needed to run. Down the game trail I went without any care for stealth in my mind. I could hear them behind me silently crashing through the Cutthroat Woods. It didn't even occur to me to turn my head to see their numbers or the pace they kept. Some were faster than others, I could tell. The longer I ran, the fewer steps they were behind me. I jumped and skipped over any debris before me. Were I wingling human or a Barmon human, I would have gone beyond what even my body was capable of. But I am not. Ragged gasps and moans drew closer, and the fear of death stabbed my heart and every firing nerve and stinging muscle as one of the things approached me. I cried a garbled mess of syllables and pitches before tripping on a root. The pain of my twisted ankle did not even register until later. Nobody ever tells you when you fall. The world moves so fast it's a blur, but your mind gains such a clarity from the startle. It's like a dream until you make contact. The stinging aches in my body were overtaken by the dull pain of cracking my bones on an old road from immortals' ages know what. I couldn't breathe more than a pant. Fearfully, my eyes quickly darted up, and there I saw on the edge of the old stone pathway was a bloated body. Hanging lazily on one shoulder was a sight I shall never forget. Two bloodshot brown eyes were crusting over with the ooze running over the curve of a puffing face. The being's face was indescribably malformed, and a haze of flies and other carrion vermin plucked at the gray skin, creating large sores where maggots writhed. A large beard hung off its chin, encrusted now by the amber-like stuff. The body of the former person stood tall but slumped in the same direction as the head. All at once I began crying and pleading with the gods that what I saw was false. Silas was before me, and soon joined by several other of the things. His crooked form was lame on one side, as had been stated in the letter. I began crawling away, for my feet could not carry me. All the while my eyes read every detail of my cadaverous cousin. His sullen face was rotting off his skull like all the flesh on his body. His humors boiled and bubbled within his cold body, warm only from the quick extinguishing of his inner fire. A fate which I know, unless my own body is gutted, will result in my body exploding upon death in an hour. His nails and hair looked longer as the flesh retreated. The rich tan hues of his body had given way to a pale, purple-like hue as the blood rotted in his collapsed veins. He did not turn or move while I was on the road. Even for the hours it took me to crawl away from the undead, the flies trailing me, finding fresh wounds to succor on, they did not move. I crawled for a full 2.5 days. I nearly died of thirst by the time the old road met up with the walls of a town. I screamed loudly for help. In minutes, a party wielding weapons had found me and taken me in. They nursed me back to health for several days, enough to survive a ride on a wagon going to another village. Along the road I saw a contingent of local militia bedecked in light armors being led by 2 venturers. The first was covered in a sweet-smelling incense and reading aloud psalms and incantations along the way, while the other, a grim axe-wielder, rubbed salt paste on the edge of their weapons. All wore cloths and oils to protect them. What happened I do not know, for I found myself off and away to places unknown. Never will I forget what I have seen, and every time I trip or feel my body burn with effort, I collapse and think of my cousin's rotting body, standing before me after it had chased me in complete silence. I wish he was alive and mad with anger or possessed, for I would have seen something in his eyes and known his blood was hot and red and known that his soul stayed and did not linger in a flesh shade. Transcription ends. Archivum Venturis records do not have any word upon ventures against undead in the settlement of Siegfried's Spear, which is noted to have been burned down by order of adventurer Aemilia Tessera, he, and the governor Gaius Secundus, 5 years prior, approximate to the original transcriber's estimation of the entry's age and the age of the account. Further investigation is required. And to all who were, are, and shall be that read this account, glory to you. Tales of Mortality is a world-building podcast set in the world of Asenscia, created and owned by Bard over 18 years and counting. It is a fantasy world of horror and madness, a planet racked by mutation and magic, where humanity survives only through itself and the Spirit Indomitable against horrors natural and unnatural. The Worldbuilder, writer, producer, and artist of the thumbnail is Bard. Me! Below is a transcription of lore, as well as a link to my Instagram, Bard of the Mad Realm, where I share art related to Asenscia. Thank you all for listening to Tales of Mortality. May chaos reign. Bye-bye.